Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Munir Lazuni, and today we're going to be talking about the differences between men and women. No, I'm not talking about that conversation you might have had to have with your kids, but rather we're going to be talking about fat loss differences between men and women, and also the similarities, because there are always some similarities in diet, hormones, exercise, fat, storage, metabolism, and more, but there are also tons of differences, which you've probably noticed if you and your spouse have gotten on a plan together, if you have both sons and daughters, if you have noticed certain different trends in the different advertising that is geared towards men and women. There are some genuine differences, and we're going to talk about all of them. The first one being fat storage differences. So obviously men and women store fat in different places. Allah created men and women very different, right? And so we can see a lot of differences in personality, in physique, and everything, as well as similarities, but lots of differences. So we're going to talk about them. We're also going to talk about hormonal differences and how those relate to our appearance, as well as the potential differences in how we need to approach fat loss, fitness, everything else. We're also going to talk about some common myths to clear up any misconceptions that may be inhibiting you from finding the truth and ultimately getting the results and sustaining them. And of course, we're going to talk about nutrition, similarities and differences, healthy fats, and a little sneak peek. Women actually need to go higher in this. Men need to go lower. We're going to talk about why and then which types to eat, and then additional dietary bonuses to improve your digestion, hormones, and more, some superfoods as well as some sunnah superfoods, and different routines for exercise, target muscles, everything else. So the first thing we're going to talk about is fat storage, which is one of the most obvious differences, which is that men actually tend to store fat mostly in the chest, the midsection, the belly, love handles, lower back. Of course, women store fat in these places too, but there is a bit of a different distribution pattern, and a lot of men really don't store a whole lot of fat in their lower body unless they're very overweight. Okay, so that's why you'll see like some men who have an enormous belly, but they have stick legs, right? Or you might have some men who they do get the chubby legs, but that's usually like around 270 pounds. I mean, again, everybody's different, and some men actually do have high estrogen, which causes them to have a feminine fat distribution pattern. But there's some interesting things, and actually, weirdly enough, when men have higher estrogen, they will store more fat in the chest and even get lumps out of the nipples, which is called gynecomastia, and this is the telltale sign of high estrogen, which is a pretty rampant problem that men have. But it's also problematic for women, because when women have too much estrogen, which we're going to talk about in the hormone section, it actually has a lot of the same negative effects on them, especially when you're estrogen dominant relative to your progesterone. Okay? So women usually store fat more in the thighs, hips, muffin top, and lower legs, including what they call cankles. So it's when the calf and ankle, there's not really enough separation. It just goes straight from calf fat into ankle, right? Which is something that women want to get rid of, as well as the triceps. Oh, there it is. Arms, specifically triceps, right? So they call them bingo wings, right? Like a lot of women will be like, oh, I need to lose fat. Like here, I got bingo wings, right? And they'll start flapping, their bingo wings, right? So we definitely want to tone up the triceps, lose fat there, as well as build a little bit of lean muscle, not bulky muscle, of course, but lean muscle to help prevent loose skin in the area, inshallah. And of course, women tend to get, the buttocks and thighs, which tend to be problematic for women, more so than they are for men. Like a lot of men will complain, they're like, I lost all my fat from my legs, but I still have a belly. Yeah, the belly usually goes last versus, again, for women, it's a bit different. And so we're going to talk about the hormonal differences, right? Of course, men have more testosterone, which can potentially be part of the reason why men get a little bit more visceral fat. Men also tend to have a little bit more cortisol, at least, especially when we suffer from chronic stress from work, everything else. This can start to cause us to store more fat in the visceral area, so like deep belly fat around the organs, which is very dangerous and puts you at high risk of a lot of conditions, diabetes, and a number of other things. In another video, I've talked about how Pakistanis as a whole have 5 to 6 times greater likelihood of developing diabetes. Arabs also have a higher chance than the average, Caucasian, right? African Americans and Africans also have a higher risk than the average Caucasian, white person, if you will, right? So again, this increases our risk quite a bit, and Pakistanis, even women, often get the belly and the visceral fat. Now, estrogen tends to lead to a little bit more subcutaneous fat just under the skin in women. And so obviously, excess estrogen for men, you have probably already heard that it's, and I talked about this in the last video as well, is problematic for men because it inhibits testosterone production and makes a man less manly, lose muscle, gain more fat. Just in general, it's going to cause more fat gain and storage, more food cravings, more water retention, fat gain, low energy, moodiness, etc. But for women, it is also problematic because it causes a lot of the same issues, primarily the food cravings, water retention, fat gain, low energy, and moodiness. Okay? And then on top of that, what can also be an issue is, let's say that your estrogen isn't necessarily that high. I mean, obviously, as we talked about in the previous video, when you don't eat enough fiber, your body starts to become backed up and starts to become less efficient at excreting excess estrogen. Of course, eating more fiber, eating more zinc also can help with that, and we talked about that a little bit in the last video, those micronutrients in fiber. But so that could cause high estrogen for women. But another issue is that when women enter the workforce, there's a lot of stress that the female body isn't necessarily as well equipped as the male body to handle, so to speak. And so a lot of women end up falling into a lot of bad eating habits and different stress habits and struggling with their mental health and just chronic compounding stress, especially for like the super moms out there who are working full time, making lots of money, and then also taking care of the kids, everything else, whether they're in a joint income household or for single moms, whatever it may be, or for single women. A lot of women, especially are pushing being single a lot later than women used to be, many generations ago. And this is very problematic for women's hormones, for women's mental health, for women's fat storage, everything else. And if you're a single woman watching this, may Allah help you to get married soon and make these tips and means to better yourself physically, mentally, deen-wise, to get there and find the husband of your dreams. Ameen. And likewise for the single brothers who need to lose weight, but also for the married brothers and sisters who want to reignite the passion and spark in your marriage. May Allah make this a means to help you with that. And ultimately, I want to give you the clarity, education, and inspiration to, inshallah, make that happen. But the point being, women are working high-stress careers more than any other time in history today, oftentimes because the men haven't stepped up, but also because the cost of living has definitely increased as well. And in general, women are being empowered, which, of course, it's a bad thing for women to be suppressed. But when women become empowered in the wrong way, so to speak, meaning that they get all this pressure and they get pushed to go work. Like a lot of women who actually would rather get married, their parents end up pushing them to go and get this high prestigious career, when in reality their parents should be helping them to get married. But alhamdulillah, if Allah has blessed you with a prestigious career, whether you're a man or a woman, be grateful for that rizq and then do your best to make the most of it. But you need some stress management techniques to handle that. And the way that the female body is created, stress and cortisol does a lot more damage to the female body. And so essentially what happens is when your body's producing too much cortisol, and your body can produce excess cortisol due to having, a lot of kids as well. Like even if you're a stay-at-home mom, but you got 5 kids, even if you got one kid could be really stressful, but especially if you got 5 or 6 or 4 or 3 or whatever it may be, you will be dealing with a lot of stress. And this is a reason why a lot of women, after their first pregnancy, they lose weight, no problem. Second pregnancy, they lose weight, no problem. Third pregnancy, boom, all of a sudden, they balloon up, they're gaining so much weight and they can't lose it. And this is a huge problem that a lot of women face. So again, my goal here is to empower you with the tools, the education, everything else that you need to succeed and solve these problems by the permission of Allah. So again, if your progesterone, so what happens when you produce too much cortisol, your progesterone production goes down, which then causes even more estrogen dominance, even if your estrogen isn't necessarily high or your digestion doesn't have any issues. And then if you combine digestive issues, which chronic stress does increase digestive issues and make you excrete less estrogen, thus leading to estrogen buildup, and your cortisol production has lowered your progesterone, it's a recipe for disaster, hormonal weight gain, estrogen dominance, all kinds of issues, trouble losing weight, everything else that we need to fix. So the point being, both men and women have hormones, both hormones, but the ratios and genetics are going to differ and dictate fat storage patterns as well as different things. But everybody's going to, benefit from stress management, sleep optimization, everything else. So again, stay tuned. We're going to talk about that. Now, visceral versus subcutaneous fat. So as we talked about, visceral fat is very dangerous. Men tend to accumulate it, but again, cortisol can make women gain that visceral fat quite a bit more as well. But usually, even a healthy woman who's overweight is going to start to get more subcutaneous fat, and this can lead to cellulite and that dimpled appearance, right? But even men who get to like low body fat percentages, sometimes the visceral fat's the last thing to go. That's why you have men who are like skinny, but they have a lot of belly fat and their belly sticks out, even if they have skinny arms. And why a lot of like skinny Pakistani men, skinny fat Pakistani men get that skinny fat look and still get type 2 diabetes despite not being overweight. So we definitely want to fix that. Now, of course, there's no shortcuts for fat loss. So the funny thing is, I feel that women tend to try things more than men, but men are always looking for the hacks too. So like freezing fat, using electrodes, taking magic supplements, fat burners, dangerous things, Ozempic. Please do not ever touch Ozempic or any of this other stuff that's going to destroy your hormones, your insides, everything, and leave you permanently damaging your metabolism and hormones and everything else, right? You got to do it the right way, the healthy way, which is a combination of nutrition and training to build a sustainable calorie deficit. Sustainable being the key. I talk about this all the time. Here are all the recipes. Here are all the strategies so you can still eat foods that you love and lose weight. So that's such an important point. We also need to account for sleep optimization, stress management, and sustainability. So for women, obviously, women tend to have less muscle mass in general. So even building a little bit of lean muscle, like let's say you build 10 pounds of muscle, don't worry, it's not going to add any bulk at all. You're just going to look toned if you gain 10 whole pounds of muscle. Okay, so even if it elevates your body weight, your metabolism is going to go up by so much that you'll be able to eat more just like a man is. Not necessarily the same amount that a man can eat, but certainly more than you can eat as a woman who's under muscled or has no muscle mass. And you're going to be healthier, fitter, you're going to have better bone mineral density, less risk of osteoporosis, falling in the shower and breaking your hip when you're 70, everything else. You're going to be functional, fit, healthy, healthy and happy, have better hormones, better insulin sensitivity, less risk of diabetes, you know, again, able to eat more food, more carbs, even more sugar, and not get fat. So building that muscle will only make you look more toned and improve your metabolism and hormones. And you're going to notice a huge difference because women tend to have less muscle mass. Now, some men have a ton of muscle, like some of these, you know, mashallah, naturally jacked, you know, Palestinians, Punjabis, people from the Sham region. You know, you got these Lebanese giants who are 270 pounds, but they're so strong, mashallah, giant hands, right? So those types of men, usually you don't really need to do much strength training per se, because you already have so much muscle. But if you have like some skinny fat Pakistani guy, you got to build some muscle, right? I mean, skinny fat of any race, but you know, I'm just talking about the tendencies that I see and also where I came from, because I used to be a skinny fat Pakistani guy before I built this muscle over the last 15 years, alhamdulillah, that I've been lifting. So, but of course, strength training is still crucial for men because cardio alone isn't necessarily going to give you the same level of fat loss as when you combine the two. But of course, the routines and how we set that up and the nutrition that we couple that with is going to differ. So we're going to talk about a couple different things here, okay? So nutrition is one of the most important factors in fat loss, and without, you know, proper nutrition, your training is not going to be as effective. So of course, you know, if you want some simple rules, I have like some videos where I talk about like, okay, here's how you can reduce the oil, increase the protein, lower the calories in your food, but still eat your favorite traditional foods. Check those out on my channel. But on top of that, some simple rules like when you're eating out as well. Another thing you can do is make 40% of your plate or half your plate, you know, some kind of chicken, fish, meat, ideally lean meats with minimal oils and with, you know, you can put plenty of seasonings in the marinade, just no saucy stuff, no oils, none of that stuff because it's going to cause issues. I know it's hard to find at family functions, but try your best and choose the next best option, right? Instead of just going for the oiliest plate that also has a bunch of carbs on it, okay? Fibrous vegetables like broccoli, spinach, you know, you could all, and it depends on your digestion. We're going to talk about that, and we talk about that quite a bit. Salads, whatever else they got, cucumbers. And then for carbs, you know, believe it or not, as long as they're not cooked with oil, starchy carbs like sweet potato, regular potato could be very filling and help you out quite a bit and have a lot less calories. The problem being, obviously, if you're drenching them in oil like deep fried potatoes, then all that oil is going to add a lot of calories and stop you from losing fat, okay? So what I really like, and this is what we do with clients, obviously, so instead of just giving you general recommendations, I mean, I'm giving you the general recommendations just so you have like a practical, easy to implement thing that's not going to overload your brain too much if you're new to this. But if you have been doing diets for a while and you understand calories, macros, you've heard these terms before, they're not going to scare you away and make you think too hard, because, you know, there's two types of people. There's people who are like, if you make me think too hard, I'm going to swipe off your video and fail to gain the value of the video. But there are also people who they're willing to push themselves a little bit to learn something new, to think deeply and critically about a topic, to get the most optimal strategy, to get the results that you truly want for yourself that are going to make such a big impact on your life and the people around you. So if you're somebody who is committed to putting in the work to learn, then I want to teach you the science. And I have videos that go a lot deeper into the science too. I don't want to scare away too many of the people who like get overloaded by science, but I'm just going to go into a little bit of the science just to make sure that those of you who are seeking more, who want to take it to the next level, who are taking this really seriously, know exactly what to do. So your calories should come from, if you're a man, 40 to 45% protein. If you're a woman, 35 to 40% protein for your calories, right? If you're a man, you should be getting 35 to 40% of your calories from complex carbs. If you're a woman, 30 to 40% of your calories from complex carbs. If you're a man, you only need about 15 to 20% of your calories from healthy fats, versus for women, you're going to need 20 to 30% of your calories from healthy fats, because women do need a little bit more fats in order to be able to produce their hormones, everything else, stay optimally healthy. Fertility is important. By the way, if you're trying to conceive right now, not the best time for a weight loss diet, because when you're on a weight loss diet, it actually does lower your fertility temporarily. So if you're trying to conceive, you know, maybe handle that first. And obviously, if you're pregnant, you should definitely not be losing weight. You're supposed to be gaining weight while you're pregnant, for the woman out there. But really, once, you know, you're a couple months out after having the baby and everything else, and you don't want to gain weight and your milk supply is handled. I mean, again, our nutritionist on our female team, Tala, can give you much better, you know, personal experience and everything on that as well. She's guided so many of our clients through pregnancy and post-pregnancy. I'm going to give you the general recommendations. You know, I oversee the female programs, but you know, obviously being that we're a Muslim business and we work with Muslims, you know, out of respect for our deen, and just as a Muslim myself, obviously, I have some amazing female coaches who work directly with the female clients. That way, if a female needs a technique review, they don't have some man looking at their body. No, that's haram, right? We have a female technique review coach. She's absolutely amazing, and she does the technique reviews for females so that none of the males on our team, including myself, see the females, obviously, like, you know, the physique and everything, because that's haram for a man to see that, but they still get everything that they need. And of course, for the brothers, we got Coach Yusuf doing the technique reviews, champion, mashallah. But on the females, we got Coach Jamila, mashallah, she's absolutely amazing. All the clients love her. She even does, you know, one-on-one sessions for the females who want a live review or need to be pushed on a session. But again, Tala, our nutritionist for the females, she's like an absolute expert with pregnancy. So whenever a female client messages me and says, help, I'm pregnant, what do? I say, boom, here's Tala's calendar link, book a call with her, she's going to sort you out, and boom, Tala always, mashallah, does an amazing job. So shout out to Tala, Allahumma barak. All right, so again, so that's the macro breakdown. We help with recipes and everything else, and like I said, we have videos on like strict diets versus easy modifications for your favorite traditional foods to make them healthier. Another big difference is that men on average are able to eat 500 more calories per day than women, because men tend to be bigger, heavier, more muscle mass, and the metabolism tends to be faster, and testosterone also inhibits fat production as well as increasing fat burning. So men do get that advantage, and men do in general tend to crave more meats instead of sweets, although men sometimes crave sweets as well, but it's usually, you know, meats, salty, savory foods, versus women tend to crave more sweets. And don't worry, we have a lot of solutions for like sweets cravings. We're gonna do some more videos on how to control sugar addiction, obviously, where we teach, you know, our female clients how to incorporate the right complex carbs and lean proteins and the right dessert substitutes and healthy recipes to satisfy the sweets craving so they can lose weight and keep it off for life with ease while enjoying themselves, alhamdulillah. And also, women need more iron and other micronutrients, especially women who have not yet hit menopause. So if you're a woman under the age of 50, you need more iron because you have your period where you're losing iron every single month through the period bleeding, right? Versus after menopause, iron is still important, of course, but obviously if a woman's not having a period, she's not going to be losing as much iron per month. Now, healthy fats, we mentioned the healthy fats. I'm going to go a little deeper into them because I did promise what healthy fat sources. And I have some other videos on my channel where I break down like the food types and everything else, the best food types, how to, you know, test them on yourself and what criteria to look for your individual preferences, genetics and digestion, as well as everything else, as well as micronutrients. But olive oil, sunnah superfood, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there's a hadith that the olive is a blessed tree. Eat from it, or it's either eat from it or eat from its oil, and then anoint your body with its oil. So again, very good moisturizer for your beard, for your hair, for your skin, you know, for both men and women, beards for the men, of course. And then be mindful of the calorie density though, because fats have 9 calories per gram versus carbs and proteins only have 4 calories per gram. So back to this, right? Even though we're looking at about 40% on average from protein, 40% on average from carbs, 20% on average from fats, 20% of your calories from fats, let's say that your allowance, just for the sake of easy math, is 2,000 calories per day. Well, that means that you can only get 400 calories from fat, and if fat has 9 calories per gram, we're looking at about only like 45 grams of fat in your diet if we're getting 20%. Now, of course, if you're a woman, let's say your calorie allowance is 1,500, right? 500 less than it would be for a man. In general, on average, obviously we have female clients losing a bunch of weight on 1,800 calories and, you know, higher as well, just like how we have some men who are losing fat on higher amounts, and we even had men who we've brought, you know, lower. So again, it's all individual, but the point being, let's say you got the average woman on 1,500 calories and she can get 30% of that from fat, that's 450. So she's able to get, you know, 50 grams of fat a day, which is a little more than a man, even if the man is on 1,800 or 2,000 calories, right? But anyways, the point being, versus with protein, your numbers are going to be much higher. Like for men, we're sometimes doing 200 grams of protein a day. For women, sometimes we're going as high as 150 grams of protein a day while fitting in your calorie numbers, which is pretty awesome. Same with the carbs, you know, 100 to 150, sometimes as high as 200 for the men. Usually no higher than 150 for the women with carbs. That's a lot of carbs, especially with complex carbs. You're going to be eating a lot of sweet potato. You're definitely not going to be feeling hungry, I'll tell you that. So anyways, other sources of healthy fats. So fatty fish like wild-caught salmon, avocados. Women actually, full-fat dairy or dairy with some fat is better than it is for men, and some studies show that fattier dairy improves women's fertility, but it actually can reduce a man's fertility, subhanAllah. It's very interesting stuff. Now, men can benefit from dairy, but women absolutely need it, and if you're lactose tolerant as a woman, you can get lactose-free, sugar-free yogurts, hard cheeses, and from that, you're going to get protein, other micronutrients, calcium, everything else for women's health. Phosphorus, very important for both men and women. Absolutely amazing. Calcium and phosphorus, I mean, makes such a difference. And phosphorus increases athletic performance as well. So dairy is amazing, even if you have to do sugar-free dairy. Like I do, I don't really do too well with lactose, so I do Fairlife milk, which is lactose-free, and I do like 0% Greek yogurt. Absolutely amazing. 2 huge staples of my diet. I eat them almost every day. Now, additional superfoods, including sunnah superfoods. Ginger, talked about that in the last video. Amazing for stress reduction, digestion, potential testosterone benefits for men, good for actually helping with menstrual pains for women, subhanAllah, right? So it's a sunnah superfood from the Quran. Now, there's a compound in grapes called resveratrol, right? In the previous video, I talked about boron being beneficial from grapes for testosterone production, but resveratrol can help to control estrogen levels. Now, mushrooms are amazing. They inhibit aromatase, which, as I talked about in the previous video, is an enzyme that converts testosterone into estrogen, leading to estrogen dominance and excess high estrogen in both men and women. Mushrooms also inhibits 5-alpha reductase, which converts testosterone into dihydrotestosterone, which accelerates male pattern baldness in those who are genetically prone. So if you're a man, you're losing your hair, incorporate some mushrooms, but more importantly, get that Pure Adore shampoo. I'm not affiliated with them, but there's an amazing shampoo that really helped me to stop losing hair 11 years ago when I first started losing mine, alhamdulillah, by Allah's permission. Green tea is helpful for that as well. Oysters have zinc, which is great for testosterone, but they also have a lot of iron, which is important for women to replenish after menstruation. So not everybody likes oysters, but if you like them and you're a woman, super beneficial. They also have other trace minerals that are important for both men and women. Cruciferous vegetables. So this is a tricky one because I get super bloated from broccoli and cauliflower. I get bloated, I get gassy, they mess me up. So even though they have some amazing benefits for reducing estrogen, unfortunately, I'm not able to get those estrogen control benefits, versus salads still have indole 3-carbinol, which is helpful for bringing estrogen down. So alhamdulillah, I don't get issues from that, so I can eat that to control my estrogen. But carrots actually are amazing for that as well. They don't have indole 3-carbinol, but they have a special type of fiber that helps reduce estrogen. And fiber in general is helpful for estrogen control. Just again, be mindful of digestion, because some vegetables you're going to digest them well, some you're not. Okay. Of course, training and exercise selection is going to be different. So for women, again, I always got to remind women to do strength training, progressive overload, a little bit of cardio, but nothing too crazy. Be careful with high intensity interval training. For men and women, wait till you've been doing exercise consistently for 3 to 6 months if you're not yet exercising. If you're already exercising, you're used to it, then no problem. But if you're just getting started, be careful and don't overdo it. Women always overdo cardio, and that's why I say some cardio. Usually walking is best because it's very low impact. It helps reduce your stress instead of increasing it, because you don't want to get too much cortisol from doing too much cardio. Resistance training is absolutely crucial for toning your muscles and reducing body fat. So again, for women, it's going to be really hard for you to gain mass and get jacked, so to speak, right? So don't worry, you're not going to look like a man. You're usually just going to tone up, even if you gain 10 pounds of muscle, which is going to take you a long time. It's probably going to take you a whole year to gain 10 pounds of muscle as a woman, and maybe it'll even take you longer than a year. I mean, women gain muscle really slowly compared to men because you have a lot less testosterone. So don't be scared of resistance training. You know, there are men who have to work super hard to look jacked and gain muscle. There are men who lift for 2-3 years and they still look skinny and they don't have any muscle, because muscle takes a long time to build and it's hard to build. And again, you have 1/10 the testosterone the men do, a lot less. So you don't need to worry about getting too jacked or anything crazy like that, okay? So just relax, do your strength training, you're going to get toned, you're going to look awesome, mashallah, by Allah's permission. Now, when it comes to what we want to focus on for women, usually we're focused on lower body, because women don't mind getting, nice toned legs, a bigger, shapelier buttocks. I'm trying to use I'll just be colloquial. Like, women want to have a nice butt, right? There's nothing haram about the word butt, okay? So again, if you want to have a nice butt and you want to have toned legs and you don't mind having a little bit of muscle mass there, and you don't mind getting that nice shapely lower body, then of course that's what women want to focus on. But most men are not focused on that. Most men are scared of having a big butt. They'd rather have a jacked upper body, okay? So again, and actually even some men don't care about having a jacked upper body. Like, some older men are just like, look, I'm married, I already got 4 or 5 kids, I just want to be functionally strong and lose weight, but I don't care about being jacked. Although I'll tell you this, your sons are going to love it when you get jacked, and you're going to have a closer connection with them, and you'll be able to relate in strength. So there's your motivation if you're a man in your 40s who doesn't care about being jacked and being strong, to help you to get jacked and be strong and have that motivation to do it for your kids and inspire them, right? And have that closer connection and have them look to you as that role model, right? But anyway, so these are the tips for women, right? Focusing on lower body, and that's what we typically focus on in routines. Like, for instance, we have 3-day routines, 4-day routines. We really have all kinds of routines for all kinds of different clients. But for the 3-day routine, for men, what we do is we do two whole body days and 1 upper body day, and that's how we get to 3. For women, we do 2 whole body days and 1 lower body day, because the emphasis that women want to focus on, women aren't trying to have jacked chest muscles, jacked arms, jacked back, jacked traps. Women want to jacked shoulders. Women want to actively avoid that, and they want to have just a toned but small, slim upper body and nice legs, but they don't mind having a little more size. But even some women are like, oh, my legs are too big, I have so much fat on them, or butt. I mean, I've actually even had some sisters tell me that, hey, my butt's too big, I actually want to actively avoid building there. But most women don't mind having a little bit more butt, right? Now, of course, aka glutes, that's the muscle name for the muscle of your butt. Now for men, you want to have strong glutes, but you don't necessarily want it to be super big, especially a lot of Pakistani and Arab men who naturally they have these big tree trunk legs and big hips. I fall into that category. My legs and butt are naturally very big. I remember being 10 years old and being very self-conscious about that and feeling like I looked weird at 10 years old, subhanAllah, even as a kid. And I had a belly when I was 9, so I'm telling you guys, I've come from dark places. But again, the point being, there's a big difference that men and women have. So of course, the emphasis in the workouts is going to be different. So again, this is the first video of a longer series. I've done a lot of content for men over the last year, but I really want to start doing more content for women because the ummah has two halves. We got the male half and the female half, and it's important that we work on both halves, physically, mentally, religiously, everything, because I want to build a complete ummah, by Allah's permission, of course. And really, I want to tell you guys my biggest motivation for this, if you guys don't mind me speaking about it, which is the fact that I look at the children of today and I see how likely they are to fall astray. A lot of us are raising our kids in the West, and may Allah help us to all make hijrah, ameen. But there's many of us who are going to be stuck living in the West, who may actively choose to live in the West. And of course, you know, it's difficult, and some of us are stuck here, but the point being, if you're raising your kids in the West, they need a strong Islamic identity, and they need strong role models. And my goal is in the next 5 to 10 years, I want to start doing kids content for Muslim kids, so that instead of your kids watching, you know, Blippi or some non-Muslim on, you know, YouTube Kids, where, yeah, it's stimulating, it's interesting, and it's educational, there are certain themes woven into it, like haram non-Muslim holidays, or, you know, the Qawm Lut, right? We want to avoid having our children get influenced by that. So I want to put out good kids content, but I realize that before I do that, there are some foundations that need to be laid first, and we got to fix the men and women of this ummah to be better role models. When you're not fit, you're grumpy, you're not really a role model they look up to because you're overweight and not in a good mood and grumpy and not fun to be around, and you have low energy to where, like, yeah, when they're kids, they're very attached to you, but as they get older, they start to want more space from you, and before you know it, they're 17, 18, 20, 21, and they want nothing to have to do with you, and they're going and hang out with a bunch of non-Muslims doing all kinds of haram things. So I don't want that for any of us, and I realize that we got to build both sides of the ummah so that we're healthy, fit, strong, not just physically, but mentally in every other way. Because remember that al-mu'min al-qawi, the strong believer, is more beloved to Allah than the weak believer. And the word qawi applies to both men and women in this authentic hadith. Or sorry, it applies to both men and women, of course. But what I mean is that it applies broadly to all types of strength, right? So I want you to be physically strong for your sake, for the sake of Allah, for the sake of this ummah. And I want you to be mentally strong, and I want you to be happy, and I want you to have energy, and I want you to be a good role model for your kids and to be healthy, so that your kids learn how to be healthy from a young age, and so you have a better connection with them from a young age, so you can, by Allah's permission, guide them and protect them by Allah's permission from going astray. So the point being, I don't necessarily need to summarize nutrition and training plans. Again, you already, you know, you can watch my other content for that, right? As I mentioned, there's no gimmicks or shortcuts. Focus on sustainable habits and the basics, which is what we teach in this video and much more deeply in all my other videos. I want you to check out if you're interested in getting coaching and step-by-step guidance, and, you know, obviously I've done for you meal plan with unlimited adjustments, workouts custom program just for you, your equipment, your level, whatever you have. Even if you have no equipment, we design workout plans for people who even have no equipment, who are training from home. We got also the Men's Sunnah Fit Club. The Women's Sunnah Fit Club is coming soon, inshallah, which is a self-paced program, right? For those who maybe they can't afford coaching, or maybe they don't necessarily feel like they need coaching. They just want the templates and the modules and the instruction and the information on demand, versus others want the coaching, the customization, everything else, which is where we obviously have our coaching. And the women's coaching has been live and successful for the last 2.5 years, alhamdulillah. And even prior to launching the modern Muslima coaching for sisters and bringing on Tala and Jamila, and then of course expanding the team, we got multiple female coaches as well. For instance, Coach Sama, and she's in the back end. We got Coach Reha, who mashallah has a lot of experience already, who we just brought into the team, and we're just teaching her all our systems and processes. So by the time that you come into the program, she's probably gonna be working with you as well, inshallah. So we got some amazing female coaches, and on top of that, obviously we got the male coaches. So the point being, even prior to that, I had experience working with females, and now it's at a whole nother level and everything else. So if you want to learn more about that, go ahead and tap the links below. I'm going to attach the links below. Once the Sisters Sunnah Fit Club launches, we'll also launch that. But for now, go ahead and check out the info on female coaching. And then from there, of course, if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you've done so. Leave me some feedback. What women's videos do you want me to post? Because I'm going to be posting a lot of women's videos after this. Like, I've done videos for both men and women, 2022 and 2023, but 2024 I've done a lot of men's content primarily. But I want to, again, get the other half to ummah fit, because our kids need role models from both sides, good men and good women, optimal men, optimal women, optimal Muslims reaching our full potential. That's what the modern Muslim movement is all about. I want our kids to grow up in the right environment, and that requires the mom, the dad, and the environment and content around them and their siblings. I mean, everything. I want to holistically do everything we can, and it starts with you and me, those who take our fitness and self-improvement seriously, to truly take it to the next level. So that's what we do in our coaching. That's what I'm doing with the content. That's what we want to do for this entire ummah. So whatever level you want to get the inspiration, education, the coaching, the results at, whatever it may be, whether it's coaching, whether it's the self-paced, whether it's, watching my content here on YouTube, whatever it may be, I'm here to serve you. I'm committed to serving you, and let me know what I can do to better serve you. What topics do you want for future videos for both men and women, right? And then, of course, make sure you share this with a friend. And again, we're going to be doing a lot more sisters content. So very, very excited to get the entire ummah fit. Anything else you need, let me know. And inshallah, I'll see you in the next video. I'll attach 2 relevant videos up here, inshallah. Especially once we watch the female stuff, I'll put it up here as well, inshallah. All right, inshallah, I'll see you in the next video. Assalamu alaikum.